The late afternoon sun stretched across the land, casting long shadows over a huge, quiet property just outside the city. It was the kind of place that looked perfect from the outside. Freshly cut grass, smooth gravel roads, rows of clean buildings, tucked between rolling hills. But past all of it, behind tall fences and rows of strong kennels, was one cage that didn't feel like the others. The dogs on this estate were all trained, well-fed, and sharp praised for protection, for loyalty. But in the last cage, tucked far into the corner like something people didn't want to remember, lived Diesel. He wasn't just another German shepherd. He was bigger than most, and something in his eyes made people stop in their tracks. Not wild, not angry, just cold, like he didn't want to be saved. Trainers had come and gone. 3, in fact. One left with stitches, one left with a broken arm. The third didn't say anything at all, just quit on the spot and walked off the property, without even asking to be paid. Nobody blamed him. Diesel didn't bark. He growled, deep, steady, and low enough to make even the strongest handlers step back. Nobody touched him. Most didn't even get close. But the strange thing was, the man who owned this place, Mr. Rowan, refused to let Diesel go. Rowan was the kind of man people whispered about. Once a famous tech giant who made billions building something the world couldn't live without. Then one day, he vanished from the spotlight. No more interviews, no events, no appearances, just this estate, this land, and these dogs. People thought he was cold, distant, maybe even broken himself. But there was one clue, just one, about why Diesel mattered. Inside Rowan's quiet office, on a dusty shelf near the window, sat a small picture frame. It showed a boy, no older than 8, sitting on a porch with a dog curled up beside him. Not just any dog, one that looked exactly like Diesel. The photo was old and faded, but you could still make out the smile on the boy's face. Scribbled at the bottom in faded ink were the words, "Me and Duke, 1965. Nobody asked about it. Nobody dared. But the people who worked at the estate knew one thing for sure. Diesel wasn't just a dog to Mr. Rowan. He was the last piece of something he'd once loved. And now, every time Rowan walked past that final cage, he didn't look scared. He looked like a man holding on to something that was already slipping away. Word about the dog started to spread, not from news stations or press releases, but from whispers. A few drivers who made deliveries to the estate told their buddies. One of the stable workers told a cousin, and that cousin posted it online. The story moved fast. A billionaire was offering $1 million to anyone who could make his dog friendly again. Not just train him, not control him, but actually calm him down, make him trust people, maybe even care about someone again. At first, people thought it was a joke. Who pays that kind of money for something like that? But those who knew Mr. Rowan understood this wasn't about the money. It was about the dog, about Diesel. People had tried before: experienced handlers, behavior experts, even a retired military dog trainer. All of them failed. One lasted 3 days. The others didn't even make it to the end of the first session. Diesel wasn't a project or a challenge. He was a wall no one could climb. Still, the offer was real. $1 million, straight from Rowan's mouth. A few bold ones came forward, some young, some proud, all sure they'd be the one to fix him. One by one, they left, some with bandages, some without saying a word. And every time, Rowan would return to that same quiet spot near the kennel and stand alone, just staring into the cage. It was never about showing off. He didn't want to be seen. He didn't want headlines. He just wanted something to change anything. Maybe deep down, he knew Diesel wasn't the only one who had gone cold. Maybe he was hoping that if someone could reach the dog, they might reach something else too, something lost, something forgotten not far from the quiet hills and gates of Mr. Rowan's estate. The city moved fast and loud. Cars passed without slowing. People rushed by with their heads down, earbuds and eyes empty. In the middle of it all was a girl named Lena. She was small for her age, just 11, but already carried the kind of silence that adults couldn't fake. No one looked at her twice. She blended into the noise like smoke. Lena didn't have a home, not a real one. Some nights she slept in a broken-down bus stop, other nights under a metal stairwell behind an old building. Her clothes didn't fit right, and her shoes were falling apart. But she knew how to stay quiet, how to disappear when she needed to. She wasn't shy. She had just learned a long time ago that talking didn't change much. People didn't listen, so she stopped trying. One afternoon, while crouched near a gas station. Lena heard the delivery drivers talking near their truck. One of them laughed and said, "That crazy rich guy is offering $1 million for anyone who can fix his demon dog." The other shook his head and said, "Not just fix, make it friendly, like a pet." They kept talking, but Lena had already stopped listening. Her brain caught on one thing. Nobody could reach the dog. She didn't care about the money. She didn't even know what $1 million looked like. But something about that dog, the way they talked about it, like it was broken beyond help, felt familiar. She knew what that was like. To be called far gone. To be looked at like a problem no one wanted to fix. That night, curled up under an old piece of cardboard behind a bakery, Lena stared at the stars. Her fingers were cold, and her stomach ached, but her mind kept going back to that dog. Maybe it needed someone like her, someone quiet, someone who didn't expect anything back. She didn't know how far the place was. She didn't know what would happen if she got there, but by morning, she had already made up her mind. Lena didn't have a map, or a phone, or even a real plan. Just a name she'd overheard Rowan's estate and the feeling that it was far away from everything she'd ever known. But she got up early the next morning, tied her worn-out sneakers tight, filled a cracked water bottle at a gas station sink, and started walking. She didn't ask anyone for a ride. She just kept moving. The city slowly fell behind her. Tall buildings turned into train tracks, then fences, then dry fields and long stretches of road with no sidewalks. Every once in a while, she'd stop and ask someone if they knew where Rowan's place was. Most didn't know. Some gave her strange looks. One man laughed and told her she was wasting her time, but she didn't stop. Not even when her legs started to hurt, or when the sun beat down so hard that the back of her neck turned red. She just kept walking, one step at a time. By late afternoon, her shoes were cutting into her heels and her lips were dry. She almost stepped on a snake. Twice she thought about turning back, but something inside her, something small but stubborn, kept pushing forward. She didn't care if the place was rich or fancy. She just wanted to see the dog, just once. As the sky started to turn orange, she finally saw it. A tall wooden gate with thick iron bars and a security camera staring down, like quiet eyes. Behind it were wide hills and far-off buildings that looked like they belonged to a different world. Lena's legs shook, her stomach growled, but she walked up to the fence, put her small hand on the metal, and whispered, almost to herself, "I made it." She didn't know what she was going to say. She didn't even know if anyone would come, but she had walked every single step to get there, and that meant something. Maybe not to the guards, maybe not even to Miss Rowan, but to her it meant everything. When Lena first knocked on the gate, nobody answered. She waited, standing on sore feet, gripping the cold bars with her small hands, eyes searching the quiet land beyond. After what felt like forever, a guard finally came into view. He was tall, broad, and wore dark sunglasses that showed her reflection right back at her dusty face, messy hair, old clothes. He didn't smile. He didn't ask her name. Just said, "What do you want?" "Kid." Lena didn't blink. "I heard about the dog," she said. "I want to try." The guard let out a noise that wasn't quite a laugh. "You? That dog would tear you apart." Then he turned and walked away, not bothering to open the gate or say another word. But Lena didn't leave. That night, she curled up beside the fence, jacket zipped all the way up, knees pulled tight to her chest. The wind was sharp. Coyotes howled somewhere far off. She didn't sleep much, but she didn't run either. When morning came, she stood right back up and waited again. The same guard saw her and shook his head. "Still here? Go home." "I don't have one," she said. Just that. Nothing more. By the third day, people on the estate started to notice. A few whispered about the girl at the gate. One of the groundskeepers left her half a sandwich without saying anything. Lena nodded a quiet thank you and ate every bite, slowly, like she didn't know when she'd eat again. On the fourth day, she was there again, same spot, same steady look. Her hair was tangled. Her shoes were almost falling apart, but she didn't waver. Another guard, older and quieter, watched her from a distance. After a long pause, he spoke into his radio. "Sir, there's a kid here. Says she's been coming every day. Wants to meet the dog." There was a moment of silence on the other end. Then a voice came through, calm and deep. "I'll be there in 10. Lena didn't know what was coming. She didn't move, didn't pace, didn't even look nervous. She just waited like she always had, quiet, still, like the world couldn't shake her. When the sound of boots on gravel reached her ears, she didn't need to look to know it was someone important. The way the footsteps moved slow, heavy, sure told her enough. Dahmer. Rowan stopped a few feet away from her. He didn't speak right away, just stood there, hands in the pockets of a long black coat, eyes hidden behind dark glasses. He was older than she expected, with gray in his beard and lines carved deep in his face, the kind of man who didn't say much but didn't miss anything either. "You're the one who's been waiting," he finally said. Lena nodded once. "Why?" he asked. She looked up, her voice soft but steady. "I heard no one could reach your dog. Maybe that's why. I should try." He didn't say anything at first, just looked at her like he was trying to figure out if she was being serious or just another person wasting time. Then he said, "He's not safe." "I know," she said. "You think you can help him?" She shook her head. "I don't think I can fix him. I just think maybe he doesn't need to be fixed. Maybe he just needs someone to stay." That made something shift in the air. Mr. Rowan didn't smile, didn't nod, but behind those dark glasses, something flickered. Maybe surprise, maybe memory. He slowly took the glasses off. His eyes were tired, full of things he hadn't said in a long time. He looked past her, toward the kennel far across the field, then back to Lena. "Be here at sunrise," he said. "You'll have one chance." Lena didn't thank him. She didn't ask questions. She just gave a small nod, calm and certain, like she'd been waiting for this moment her whole life. The next morning, before the sun even cleared the hills, Lena stood in the grass just outside Diesel's enclosure. The ground was wet with morning dew, and the air had that sharp, early chill that sneaks through thin clothes. Her fingers shook, but not from fear. She wasn't here to be brave. She was here to be real. Across the yard, a few handlers were getting ready. One of them walked toward the far post, where a thick metal tether was buried deep in the earth. That chain hadn't been touched in months, not since Diesel had nearly torn it out of the ground, dragging a full-grown man behind it. Everyone stood back. No one got too close. Dahmer. Rowan was already there. He didn't speak, just crossed his arms and watched with a face like stone. He needed to see it with his own eyes. Then Diesel appeared. Everything changed. The air went tight, like it was holding its breath. Diesel's coat shimmered black and gray under the morning light. His muscles were coiled, tight, ready. His eyes locked on Lena, and a deep, low growl rumbled from his chest. The kind that didn't sound like a warning, more like a promise. He pulled against the chain, testing it. The metal groaned. Lena didn't move. She stepped forward until she was just at the edge of the tether's reach. Then she knelt. No leash, no food, no command. She didn't speak. She didn't wave. She just knelt there, still as stone, hands on her knees, eyes soft, not staring at Diesel, just looking past him, like she was giving him space to decide for himself. Diesel barked loud, sharp, enough to make one of the handlers flinch. Then he lunged. The chain held. Dust kicked up under his paws. He paced, circled, watched her like a puzzle he didn't understand, and still Lena didn't move. She wasn't challenging him. She wasn't afraid. She just stayed. Minutes passed. 10, maybe 15. Diesel didn't bark anymore, but his body was still tense, like a spring pulled tight. He stood at the far end of the tether, chest heaving, eyes never leaving her. Lena didn't blink much. She didn't fidget. Her whole body just said, "I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to win. I'm just here." And for the first time in a long time, Diesel didn't know what to do. Diesel stood frozen at the edge of the chain, still breathing hard, still tense, but not growling anymore. His eyes stayed locked on Lena, trying to figure her out. She didn't flinch. She didn't reach out. She just stayed in that same quiet spot, like she wasn't waiting for anything, like she could sit there all day if that's what it took. Then, slowly, Lena reached into the pocket of her hoodie, not fast, not loud, just careful and calm. Her fingers pulled out a small, half-eaten granola bar. She unwrapped it and set it gently on the ground in front of her, then pulled her hand back and rested it on her lap. Still not looking right at Diesel, just being there. His ears twitched. His body didn't move yet, but his eyes flicked between her and the food. Another minute passed, maybe 2. Then he took one step forward. The chain clanked. A few handlers shifted in place, unsure whether to call out, but Mr. Rowan didn't say a word. He was watching everything, his arms tight across his chest, his jaw stiff. Diesel took another step, then another dot until he was right in front of her. He didn't growl, didn't bare his teeth. He just stood there, nose twitching, eyes alert. His breathing had slowed. His head was low, not in fear, but in something closer to caution or maybe curiosity. Lena didn't move a muscle. Her eyes stayed low, then just loud enough for only Diesel to hear. She whispered, "It's okay. I'm not here to make you do anything. I just want to be here." Something in that moment shifted, like a rope inside. Diesel had been pulled loose, like a part of him that had been tied up in fear or anger suddenly remembered what softness felt like. He leaned forward, sniffed the granola bar, then gently took it from the ground after he chewed and swallowed. He did something no one expected. He sat beside her, not because someone told him to, not because of food, just because. The yard went silent. Nobody spoke. Even the birds seemed to pause. Diesel didn't growl. He didn't bark. He just stayed there, next to the girl who hadn't demanded a thing from him, and maybe that's why he trusted her. Dotmer. Rowan stepped forward slowly, the gravel crunching under his shoes as he approached. His face was unreadable, but his eyes never left the sight in front of him. Lena sitting calmly in the dirt, and Diesel, the dog no one could touch, resting quietly by her side. The guards didn't move. The handlers kept their radios down. Nobody wanted to break whatever was happening. It felt like something important, something you only saw once. When Rowan finally spoke, his voice was low but clear. "You did it," he said. "No one else has ever gotten close." Lena looked up at him, but didn't stand. Diesel was leaning against her now, like he didn't want her to go. Rowan nodded slowly. "The $1 million is yours, like I promised." Lena didn't smile. She looked down at Diesel's fur, then back at Rowan. "I don't want the money," she said. There was a pause. Even the wind seemed to stop. Rowan raised an eyebrow. "Then what do you want?" She took a breath. "A room," she said. "A real one. Somewhere safe. A bed I won't be kicked out of. 2 meals a day. And school. I want to go to school." Her voice didn't shake, but her eyes did, just a flicker. The kind of flicker that shows itself when you finally ask for something you're not used to getting. Not toys, not prizes, just the basics. Just the things that make a kid feel like they matter. Rowan didn't answer right away. He studied her like he was trying to understand something that couldn't be written down. Then he glanced at Diesel, who looked back at him not with fear, but calm, alert trust. Something had changed, and not just in the dog. In all of them, finally. Rowan spoke. His voice was softer this time. "You'll live in the main house. We've got an extra room. You'll eat with me, and we'll get you into school by next week." Lena didn't cry. Not really, but her shoulders dropped, like a weight had finally slid off. She gave a small nod. "Thank you," she said. Nothing more. Just that. Because it was enough. That night, Lena slept in a real bed for the first time in her life. The mattress was soft and didn't sink in the middle. The blanket smelled like lavender. There was a small lamp on the desk and a window that looked out over the hills. It wasn't a big room, just enough space for a dresser and a chair, but to her, it felt like a castle. She didn't toss or turn. She didn't wake up cold. For the first time in as long as she could remember, she slept without one eye open. Just outside her door, Diesel lay curled up on the floor. He didn't growl. He didn't pace. He just stayed there, ears twitching every now and then like he was listening for trouble, but none came. His body relaxed the way dogs do when they finally feel safe, when they trust someone enough to stop guarding and just rest. Down the hall, Mr. Rowan sat alone in his room, holding the old photo in his hands, the one of the boy and the dog. He looked at it for a long time, not with pain this time, but with something else, something closer to peace. He whispered, barely loud enough to hear. She didn't fix him. She reminded him he was never broken, and in that quiet house, where silence had once felt heavy and sad, it finally felt like something had healed. Not all at once, not completely, but enough to start over. Mornings on the estate looked different now. Mr. Rowan, who used to move through the house like a shadow, had a new routine. He made coffee, read the paper, and packed a small lunch bag with Lena's name written neatly on the side. It wasn't anything fancy, just a sandwich, an apple, and sometimes a note that said something like "good luck today" or "see you at the gate." He didn't say much, but you could tell it mattered. Lena walked to the gate every morning with Diesel at her side. his tail swinging slow and steady. He didn't wear a leash. He didn't need one. He walked beside her like they'd been doing it forever. And when the school van pulled up, Lena would climb in, and Diesel would sit down near the gate, watching it drive off like he was making sure she got there safe. Every afternoon, he'd be waiting in the exact same spot when she came back. People in the nearby town started to notice. At the grocery store or gas station, someone would ask, "Hey, who's that girl at Rowan's place?" And someone else would say, "That's the one who calmed the dog." Most people didn't believe it at first. Then they heard the full story, and when they did, they'd usually just shake their heads and smile, saying something simple and true, some things money can't fix. Because in the end, this was never about a reward. It was about something deeper, about being seen, about feeling safe, about knowing someone believes in you even just once, and sometimes that's all it takes to change everything. Some evenings, after dinner, Mr. Rowan would walk out to the porch and sit in the same wooden chair he used to avoid, the one that faced the hills and caught the last bit of sunlight before it dipped behind the trees. He'd hold the old photo in his hand's worn edges, faded colors, but still clear enough to see the boy and the dog. He didn't stare at it with sadness anymore. This time, he looked at it like something had finally come full circle. Inside, Lena was doing her homework at the desk in her small room. The light from the lamp cast a soft glow over her notebook. Diesel lay curled up near her feet, completely at ease, like he belonged there, because now he did. Every once in a while, she'd reach down and run her fingers through his fur without even thinking about it. He didn't flinch. He didn't move. He just stayed close. That night, before heading to bed, Mr. Rowan looked at the photo one more time and whispered, "She didn't save him. She just showed him he was never lost." And for the first time in a very long while, he smiled, not the kind you fake for a camera, but the kind that starts small and settles in slow, like it means something. The next morning, Lena walked beside Mr. Rowan through the yard, barefoot, calm, with Diesel just a few steps behind like a shadow that had finally found its light. No one questioned it. No one needed to. Because when something is right, it doesn't have to be explained. It just is.